What is up, everybody? Matt Parrino here, nyupsyracuse.com, coming to you from One Bills Drive in Orchard Park. And I'm going to be joined here in a moment by my tag team partner, Ryan Talbot, over at nyupsyracuse.com. Talk a little bit of Bills here on this Wednesday. We just finished media day here today. Talked to Josh Allen, talked to Sean McDermott, got in the locker room, and you can feel the buzz in the building. People are... players are excited. The locker room and just excitement abounds within it. And then, just talking to all of you guys, so much excitement for what this game kind of means on Sunday. And comment in here is, how's your right arm feeling? There's a funny little meme going around of me holding my camera at Josh Allen's press conference today, which was pretty funny. It is holding up. Thank you so much. Ryan, how are you, my friend?
Hey, I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm great, man. I mean, this is, kind of best case scenario when we talk heading into the season, where we would be 12 games into the season with this football team, 9-3. I don't even think the most optimistic people would have predicted that. But at the same time, with all the questions, I think it was possible. So with what you've seen, interacted with, you do a great job talking to, Bills Mafia, everybody in the fan base. Where do you feel like people's expectations sit now ahead of this big game and looking forward?
Well, I think this week, I've talked to a mix of fans. Some are cautiously optimistic. They think that maybe the Bills have the type of defense that can slow down Baltimore. And I use the term slow down because I don't think you're going to stop the Ravens offense. I think they're going to put up points. I think Lamar Jackson is too talented to contain over 4 quarters. But they think that this is the type of defense that the Bills can at least maybe have a similar performance to the 49ers, where they can make some adjustments on the fly. They can really kind of limit the amount of points that the Ravens can score. There are some other fans that kind of look at it and say, we're kind of playing with house money going into this week. You're 9-3. Even if you lose this game, it's not the end of the world. You have the Steelers. You have the Jets. And you do have a New England Patriots team. And I'm cautious when I say this because of the Patriots' success against the Bills in the last, 20 years. But there's a lot of fans that even say, right now, this Patriots team is even beatable. The defense is suddenly not playing up to that standard they were playing earlier this year. Tom Brady is really struggling. That offense is really struggling. So even if you have a hiccup this week, I still think fans are sitting there saying we're in a great spot to make the playoffs this year.
Yeah, you are in a great spot. And, this team is in a great spot entering this high caliber, all eyes are going to be on New Era Field situation against the Ravens on Sunday. And there's a comment here earlier, how important is the 12th man on Sunday? And I think that that's one of the biggest advantages that this Bills team is going to have. Lamar Jackson has probably played in a lot of big moments in his college career and so far this season with the Ravens. Played in a playoff game last year, so he's been in big moments. But there's just something different. There's not many environments in the NFL like players talk about it all the time. Coming into New Era Field, it's going to be a little bit colder. It doesn't expect snow is not in the forecast, but it's December football in Orchard Park, so the winds are going to be gusting. It's going to be a tough environment, and this defense is playing with a chip on its shoulder. I mean, you go back to after the Cowboys game and Micah Hyde and Jordan Phillips and Shaq Lawson, and you can kind of go up and down the list. They heard the doubters. I mean, they went into that game wanting to prove something, and they felt like they did. This is another chance, a big chance, to continue to prove it.
Yeah, without a doubt, and I get that whole disrespect thing, because when you looked at the Cowboys statistically, that offense was among the best in the league. So a lot of the national media were counting out the Bills, saying, "Oh, I don't think the Bills can kind of keep up." Well, minus that opening drive, which is scripted, mind you, the Bills really shut down the Cowboys for the remainder of that game, minus one garbage time touchdown. So now all of a sudden you're probably the same spot again 1 week later. You have this dynamic Ravens offense who. They didn't put up a lot of points last week in their win against 49ers 2017 final. But this is a team that's been putting up 30, 40 points regularly. And I think that a lot of the national media, I think a lot of people are expecting that again. Well, hey, that last week they were playing against the 49ers, the NFC team that's most likely to make the Super Bowl. Well, this is the Bills team. I think they're going to put up more points is what the national media, I think, is expecting. So I think that defense is going to have that chip on its shoulder. And I do think the Bills have the talent. They have a lot of talent at linebacker. They have a lot of talent in that secondary to kind of match up with that offensive weapons there. It's going to come down to the gap integrity, or it's going to come down to the not letting the Ravens run wild on them. And whether that is gap integrity or whether it's as simple as kind of playing that backyard football type play where you kind of, this is my guy, this is my responsibility, because the Bills are going to have one or two players that kind of say, Lamar's my responsibility if he goes this way, that way, whatever. It's going to be a little bit different, but I do think that this defense has the talent to stack up.
I don't know about gap integrity, but when it comes to beard integrity, I mean, yours is off the charts right now. That is an impressive beard. I'm joined right now by Ryan Talbot. I am Matt Parrino. We are both at NYUp and Syracuse.com. Thank you always for joining us in the chat. A lot of great comments. And you bring up Lamar Jackson. And, you know, we were in the locker room today. We've talked to Sean McDermott now twice about it, Leslie Frazier on Monday. And one of the big factors with Lamar Jackson is not only that he's such a dynamic runner, but his ability to kind of play games with the defense because of the way that he hands the football off to in that pistol offense. You never kind of know where it is. It's, you know, Leslie Frazier called him Houdini, and we got in the, locker room today, and guys like Lorenzo Alexander said, listen, sometimes you don't know what you're doing out there because it gets so congested, and they have such a big offensive line and a 300-pound fullback. It is tough to stop. But I will say that I think that this defense, despite its issues stopping the run, has the kind of athletes that you need to kind of cause problems for this rushing attack, whether it be Mark Ingram or Lamar Jackson. I think Tremaine Edmonds, Matt Milano, Ed Oliver, I think those three guys could have a big game on Sunday.
Yeah, and I can agree with that. And like you were saying, it's impressive to watch the Ravens. I watched that game against the 49ers, and like I said, it wasn't a high-scoring affair for the Ravens compared to some of their most recent games. But when Lamar holds onto that ball and he puts it in the stomach of the running back, he waits until that last possible instant to either pull it or hand it off, and it leaves those defenders kind of guessing. And there were times where he held on to it, and he had this big running lane. There were times where Ingram was the recipient and getting the ball, and he had this big gap up the middle. So it's going to be tough. There's going to be some big runs against the Bills this weekend. It's just limiting how many big runs you let up or how many times you let them kind of fool you with that play. Like you mentioned Ed Oliver by name. I really think the defensive tackles could play a big role in this game because the Ravens starting center, he's out for the year. That's one area where the Bills could possibly get that, internal pressure, and that can kind of force some plays to the outside, and you could possibly stop some plays dead in their tracks in terms of those handoffs too. So they have the talent, they have the athleticism at all three levels, but I do think that defensive tackle could end up playing a huge role in this game.
I'll take one question here before we get out of here because I think it's a fun one. If the Bills win on Sunday, should we consider them a Super Bowl contender? And I'll start it off in the sense that if the Bills win Sunday, I don't know if I would go as far to say that they're Super Bowl contenders, but they're immediate contenders in the AFC East because I think the New England Patriots are going to have their hands full with Kansas City. I think it's a game they're probably going to win, but I could see a scenario where, Patrick Mahomes does enough on the offensive side of the ball to score enough points in a game where maybe Tom Brady and that struggling New England offense can't keep up. So if the Bills win and the Patriots lose, then you're going into that final 3-game stretch and the Patriots coming up in Foxborough in Week 16. Man, this is a different team, a different feel. And I don't think that if they win this weekend or if they come in and they play them tough and it's a really close game, I think that says a lot about the fact that no matter the stage, they're ready for it.
You know what? I'll sip the Kool-Aid. If the Bills beat the Ravens, yes, they are a Super Bowl contender. If you look at the AFC, you have the Texans. I think they match up pretty well with the Texans. The whole Mahomes aspect of Kansas City, that would worry me a little bit in terms of their offense, but that defense is pretty vulnerable. So I think the Bills could match up there. If they beat the Ravens, a team that steamrolled the Patriots, a team that steamrolled the Texans, a team that's beaten Super Bowl contenders in the NFC and the Seattle Seahawks pretty handily, mind you, and a close game against the 49ers, yes, I'm buying the fact that they can go on a run in the postseason. We've seen it happen before. We've seen a Ravens team led by Joe Flacco get hot at the right time in the playoffs. No one was expecting that team to make a Super Bowl run. So if the Bills can beat the Ravens this week and they have that momentum going the rest of the way, yeah, they can get hot in the playoffs and they can make a serious run.
Listen, Ryan Talbot always bringing the fire bold predictions, but I will say that I won't go as far as that, like I said, but I will say if they win this game and the Patriots lose, I'm picking the Bills to win the AFC East. I think it's funny. There's a couple guys. When you go back to Michael Robinson from NFL Network, he called it way back in June. I saw that video circulating. I mean, he's going to have to get some serious props as kind of the oracle here, because that was quite the. I think Brandon Beane, a lot of people appreciate it and were excited about what he was doing, Bills fans and experts alike. But to predict them to win the division back then, before seeing any of this, even with that schedule, I think it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, it was pretty bold, and all of a sudden, one game behind this late in the season, I think he looks pretty smart regardless, because few people were expecting the Bills to be on the Patriots' tail. All offseason, all summer, all spring, all we heard was the Jets, the Jets, the Jets. This was the team that made the splashy moves in free agency. They're the team that's going to make a run for the postseason. The Bills were only expected to win 6.5 games by Vegas standards early on. So, yeah, he looks pretty wise, because there weren't many people on the Bills bandwagon at that point in June. And here he is saying they were going to win the AFC East at that point in time. So, regardless of the outcome, even if the Bills don't win the division, if they make the playoffs, which is looking very likely right now, he's looking pretty smart for that prediction.
Guys, thank you so much for joining us. He's Ryan Talbot. I'm Matt Parrino. Tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, make sure you set your schedules. Super Bills fan, Ariel Helwani from ESPN. He is the top guy in MMA media, but also a huge Bills fan. Went to Syracuse, familiar with the region. He's going to come on here, and we're going to talk about your Bills, his impressions of the team, kind of from afar, although he's been following them pretty closely. It's going to be a super fun time. Ryan, thank you so much for joining me. We'll talk more as this week goes along.
Yeah, absolutely.
Take care, guys.